Hey guys, I'm Uncle Joel with Pin and Reel, where we talk about comic books, video games, TV shows, movies, books, and more. We'll do reviews, speculation, ideas I have as a writer for what I would do if I was writing the movies or comics, and so on. Please leave a comment to let us know what you think. Really appreciate the feedback. If you like what you see, hit like and be sure to subscribe. And with that being said, on to the video. Scott Snyder came in out of nowhere. He published a collection of short stories called Voodoo Heart, and pretty quickly afterwards, Stephen King wound up selecting two of the short stories from the book to be included in the Best American Short Stories anthology. And from there, he wound up doing a little bit of work at Marvel, including the Iron Man Noir series, but he would really get his start when Vertigo began publishing his American Vampire series. And it definitely helps that the first story arc contains stories not only written by Scott Snyder, but also by Stephen King. And from there, he began writing for DC. At the time, Grant Morrison was writing his seminal Batman run, and so Scott Snyder took over doing Detective Comics. And at this point, Bruce Wayne was believed to be dead, and Dick Grayson took over for being Batman. And it was here that Scott Snyder penned the excellent story arc Black Mirror, accompanied by artist Jock, where they did an excellent job of showing the difference from a Bruce Wayne Batman and a Dick Grayson Batman, even just in the art alone. And then the next series that he worked on, Batman Gates of Gotham, with Kyle Higgins, really started to showcase Scott Snyder's tendencies as an architect. And they dug into the history of literally the architecture of Gotham. And I believe that this is where Scott Snyder really started to show that he had a deep respect for history, lore, and what makes the characters interesting. And my guess would be that his work here is what helped prove that he would be able to take over the Batman title, particularly in his first story arc, The Court of Owls. And throughout his Batman run, Snyder did a lot of work to really dive deep into the characters and their histories. And not everybody's going to love Snyder's work. He is kind of a polarizing writer, but it can't be denied that he has big, grand ideas, and he loves to mess with continuity and history in very unique and different ways. For instance, the way that he established that the Court of Owls had been around for most of Gotham's history and were key in manipulating the path that Gotham took. It did a phenomenal job of weaving in these new characters, these new villains, and yet making them feel like they had always been there. So Scott Snyder's entire run on Batman steadily worked in a lot of new ideas, and eventually it culminated in the Dark Knight's Metal story. Now, in the lead up to Dark Knight's Metal, Scott Snyder kept talking about how this was the culmination of all of his work up until that point. But then all of a sudden, with the end of Dark Knight's Metal, it was clear that he was also using that as a springboard into what he was wanting to do with the DCU as a whole. Dark Knight's Metal led directly into the No Justice miniseries, and that in turn led directly into Scott Snyder's Justice League. And it was here in the Justice League series that Scott Snyder started playing with even bigger ideas. He started playing with the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. He drove home that they were brothers, and he established in Dark Knight's Metal that there was a third brother, the World Forger. And in his Justice League run, he also introduces their mother, Perpetua. So you have this whole family of cosmic beings that is established, as well as other cosmic beings that judge them. And so, relatively quickly, Snyder went from this new writer who is just writing the secondary Batman book to being the guy who is completely reworking Batman's history to all of a sudden he's completely reworking the entirety of the DC universe. There are so many things that are done within the Justice League series that I absolutely love. My only significant complaint is one of the common complaints about Snyder's work is that he is quite exposition heavy, but considering the ideas and the concepts he's working with, I'm a little bit forgiving of that. And a lot of people say that his entire run is too stretched out, but personally, I think it could have been drawn out a bit more. There are some ideas that really aren't explored all that well. For instance, they introduce a number of the different counter forces, such as Flash has the Speed Force, and there is a counter force of the Still Force. And I know a lot of the Still Force is explored in the Flash series, so maybe I missed something for some of the other forces in a series that I haven't read. But since these are so central to the story that Snyder's telling in Justice League, I feel like there should have at least been one story arc for each of the different forces. And there are a couple of forces that I feel like are just kind of quickly thrown out there, but not really explored or dealt with. Especially the last force that was introduced. Like, they introduced it, and I still am not entirely certain what it is. And so, while yes, a lot of people feel that his story was a bit stretched out, there are a lot of different ideas that he throws out and then just quickly moves on. So he doesn't have a chance to really explore them the way that I would have liked. Because a lot of them are really good and really interesting, and he does seem to have a deep understanding of the universe. And so with this deep understanding of the universe, he expands it in ways that are very interesting. Now, some can say that it contradicts previous continuity, but that's very common for comics. And if that's actually a criticism people are going to level against Scott Snyder, then you have to level that against just about every other writer in comic history. And so with the introduction of a lot of phenomenal ideas, and so with all of Snyder's Justice League run coming to a close with the final collision of the Justice League with the Legion of Doom fighting over literally the fate of the entire multiverse, we are led then into Dark Knight's Death Metal. And I'll be covering reviews of each issue of Dark Knight's Death Metal coming up soon and as they come out. But for now, I just wanted to give a general overview of Scott Snyder's career up until this point, so that I could dive into Dark Knight's Death Metal and not have to worry about any of that. So yeah, be sure to come back for the reviews, hit like, and let me know what you think of Scott Snyder down in the comments. Are you more of a fan of his older stuff, or maybe some of his independent work, such as American Vampire or The Wake? What do you think of some of these new continuity changes that he's made, and some of these cosmic characters that he's introduced, and the way that they could affect the fabric of the DC Universe going forward? So yeah, be sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, this is Uncle Joel saying, stay tangible.